never found but always dreamed. Forever, evergreen. Forever, evergreen. So as I look for you, and perhaps you look for me, through the dazzle and the noise, and the glamour and the gleam, I remember the way your eyes always seem. Far away, evergreen, overlooked and never seen. Forever loved, ever lost, never found but always dreamed. Evergreen. Forever, evergreen. Forever, evergreen. Forever,
Well, it's good to see John Foxx again. Fantastic. And
Good to see you, John.
not that long ago, you were here and picking your favourite tunes.
Exactly, yeah.
Was it this year or last this time?
Yes, it was this year.
It was this year, my goodness. Where is it all going? It's going to be Christmas soon, which is frightening. I don't want that to happen.
It'd be hot, I'm sure. We'll have sunshine and weather.
Yes, the Indian summer we've been having.
Yeah.
That's what my daughter said. Is this an Indian summer?
Oh, yeah.
You know, she's been dying for one of those.
You could dress up for it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny watching people in the streets because they've all got the they've gone back under the bed and got the flip-flops out and the shorts.
Yeah.
Also excited about it. So John Foxx and the Maths, The Shape of Things, which is an excellent new album from you. And also you've been working with some very interesting people on remixes.
Yeah. Just about everybody, in fact.
Yeah. Steve Mallender.
Yes.
Ex-Cabaret Voltaire,
Oh,
of
yes.
course.
Oh, yeah, it's a great honour to have him.
Well, he's wonderful. And one of the first sessions I ever did on national radio.
Oh, yeah.
Was with The Cabs.
Oh,
as
well
people,
done. Yeah, brilliant.
people used to call them that. And quite recently, I did dig out some of the vinyl from the sessions that we did at Maida Vale.
Oh, good.
And played
Yeah.
a track from that, and everybody just went mad.
Oh, it's very current now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, actually, just talking about the sort of stuff that's happening at the moment, where we are getting this electronic and synth stuff, and you can see the reference points, you can hear,
Yeah, you can hear
the reference points. And what have they? I mean, where's it all come from? Do you think? Why has it happened?
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? I think because it's a sort of 20-year turnaround, isn't it? You get these cycles in music where people choose from 20 years before, and it seems to be getting slightly longer as we go on. You know, the Beatles were nicking things from 5 to 10 years, you know, Everly Brothers and stuff like that. And then the Stones came on just a little bit afterwards, and it was Howlin' Wolf, which was just a bit earlier, I think. And then as the bands have gone on and on, I mean, we were stealing things from Neuer, who started in 73, which was, I'd heard in 73, and we started getting seriously into that towards the end of the 70s, so that was still 5-year cycles. And then people started referencing, after Mark Bolan died, they started referencing him. And then people started referencing Bob Dylan and so on, so it went back and back. And I think now, rock and roll's a sort of finite era, because it's changed, hasn't it? The old beast's dead and it's a new one now. It's gone digital and there aren't records anymore. So people are going back, and because of things like YouTube and the internet, they're able to pick up on the whole history of it right back to when it started.
Yeah, and you can hear the sounds. You can hear it all going on. I was talking to a friend earlier, and he was saying that, you know, a lot of what you were doing was like punk. It was another music revolution, as I think house was. I think there was a massive revolution, dance music. What's going to happen next time, if you look at what people are doing now and what kids are listening to now, not just kids, everybody, it's very insular, isn't it? It's a solo thing. You're in your own bubble.
Yeah, headphone music.
Other people aren't necessarily hearing what you're listening to. So how's it going to evolve?
Oh, well, that's interesting, because I've just got excited by headphone music, you know, isolation music, and it sort of fits with some edges of what I do. But there's a whole movement now of people who were using old equipment as well to make crackly sort of imperfect sounds and recording them, because they found that they sound good on headphones, because you don't just hear the person singing, but you can hear all the crackle, the snap, crackle and pop of the background and all the sort of distortions and
But that's what they wanted to get rid of, didn't
and we've been trying to get rid of that for years, yeah. But now everything's gone digital and it could be too smooth. People started introducing a bit of texture, and people really enjoy it on headphones because it brings the whole thing to life. You know, it's like hearing an old radio broadcast. You know, you're suddenly there in 1940 or something.
Well, I mean, if you listen to your old vinyl, you know exactly where you are. You know who you were snogging, don't you? You know everything about it, what you were drinking and what perfume you had on, or aftershave Bruce on. So how was this album recorded?
Well, this was recorded in using old equipment like that, quite often very shaky old stuff that works intermittently, and I think you can hear that on it. But we've got a great affection for that, particularly Benj, who's got more synthesizers than anybody else in the world, I think. I think he cornered the world market in synths. And so that's what we've been using, and microphones and old transducers and bits of desk and things all wired together.
Yeah.
So it's really like working in a radiophonic workshop 1955, 65, you know, something like that.
Before we hear your spoken word stuff, which I want to find out, you know, what makes you tick in that respect. But you've got a great festival coming up in Belgium on the 30th of October.
Yep.
With Patti Smith.
Yes.
The Cult.
Yep.
Carl Bartos and Diamanda Gallias. So that's going to be an exciting one, I would have thought.
Oh, it will, yeah.
Do you know Patti?
Yes. No, I don't, actually. But oddly enough, I went to her first concert here at the Roundhouse. And that was one of the moments of the beginnings of punk in England. I think it was 75 or 76. Probably 75. And I remember seeing Lydon there and Make Out the Clash. And I remember I almost asked Mick to be our guitarist, but I thought he looks too good, so he can't. People who look that good probably can't play, you know, so I didn't bother. And we were sort of circling around each other at that point because everyone was forming bands, and it was just before the Pistols got formed, I think. So it was an interesting moment, that, and I've got a great affection for it. The Stranglers was supporting.
Standing in the dark, watching you glow, lifting a receiver. Nobody I know. Over all the bridges, echoes in rows, talking at the same time. Big drum. Misty on the glass now, rusty on the door, here for years now. Click, drum. Click, drum. Click, drum. Click, drum. Click.
When you were at school, I imagine you were a bit of a, you know, into the sort of maths and sciences, or maybe not.
I was both. I was secretly into all kinds of things like poetry and physics and all that. But I went to the kind of school where you couldn't declare anything like that. Otherwise, you get flattened very quick. So I was part of it. In fact, I failed my 11 plus deliberately so I could stay with the gang of lads that I was with at the time in Chorley. I read a lot, always did, and I always liked
go to the library, the proper library.
Yeah, and I started by wanting to make explosions, chemistry things, you know.
Right.
And you learn a lot from that.
Did you blow anything up?
Oh yeah. We made a brilliant bomb one afternoon near bonfire night where we co-opted a lot of fireworks and made this bomb out of several toilet rolls glued together with string and rubber stoppers, and made this hellish explosion.
Wow.
And the police were called in Chorley, in the back, not far from where I lived. It was a terrace, Coronation Street type street, you know, and in the back there was this sort of bomb site, all covered in bits of glass and cinders, you know, the kind of place. So we set it off there. I thought that was a safety zone, but it smashed windows and, you know, damaged things, and dogs went deaf, and old women came out screaming and that sort of thing. So and the police were called, and we legged it across the playing fields and waited on the swings till everything went quiet, you know, and then crept back.
And you were never caught?
I got a good hiding from the mum.
Oh, right.
She knew who it was, because she'd seen the preparations. But I found lots of other interesting stuff, and mainly science fiction. I got interested in science fiction very early. And I just bought and swapped and gathered together tons of it that I read. I must have read every short story of science fiction that was around for about 15 years, I think.
So what have you brought along?
Well, I've got a writer called Jorge Luis Borges, as I'm supposed to pronounce it. Borges, as I call it. And it's a book of short stories, and one of which is called The Aleph. I remember sending off for this when I was about 14, I think, because I read a review of it in one of the Sunday papers. And I thought, I've got to get that story. It sounds right up my street. It's exactly what I want to read. And I was beginning to get interested just away from science fiction into things that were mysterious stories that weren't cliched science fiction or anything like that, just imaginative. And sometimes, I have to say, poetic stories, but they had to be mysterious and inexplicable, and I didn't want things to be explained. I don't like stories that get tied up neatly at the end, because that's really disappointing. I want to be left suspended, and so I have to think about it afterwards, you know, and that kind of mystery pulls you on forever. And you can re-experience it, whereas if things are tied up neatly like a detective story, you don't want to read the damn thing again. Because there's no point. It's like hearing a joke twice, isn't it? And so it's not those kind of stories that I enjoy. I must explain some of the background of the story so this excerpt makes sense. Borges and a guy called Carlos and a woman called Beatrice are in a sort of triangle. Borges is the loser. He's jealous because Carlos has got Beatrice's commitment. But they're still nevertheless friends, and Carlos tells Borges about this point in the cellar of his house, that if you look at it in the dark a certain way, you can see every other point in the universe, and it's called the Aleph. So of course Borges has to see this thing, and we're at the point where they're actually about to go down there to look at it. "A glass of pseudo cognac," said Carlos, "and we'll duck right into the cellar. You'll lie on the tile floor and fix your eyes on the 19th century step of the pertinent stairway. I'll reascend the stairs, let down the trap door, and you will be alone. Some rodent will frighten you, easy enough to do. Within a few moments you will see the Aleph, the microcosm of the alchemists and Kabbalists, our proverbial friend, the multum in parvo made flesh. Of course," he added in the dining room, "if you don't see it, that does not invalidate anything I've told you. Go on down. Within a very short while you will be able to begin a dialogue with all the images of Beatrice." I descended quickly, sick of his vapid chatter. The cellar, barely wider than the stairway, was more like a well or a cistern. In vain my eyes sought the trunk that Carlos Argentino had mentioned. A few burlap bags and some crates full of bottles cluttered one corner. Carlos picked up one of the bags, folded it and laid it out very precisely. "The couch is a humble one," he explained, "but if I raise it 1 inch higher, you'll not see a thing, and you'll be cast down and dejected. Stretch that great clumsy body of yours out on the floor and count up 19 steps." I followed his ridiculous instructions. He finally left. He carefully let down the trapdoor. In spite of a chink of light that I began to make out later, the darkness seemed total. Suddenly, I realized the danger I was in. I'd allowed myself to be locked underground by a madman, after first drinking down a snifter of poison. Carlos's boasting clearly masked the deep-seated fear that I wouldn't see his miracle. In order to protect his delirium, in order to hide his madness from himself, he had to kill me. I felt a vague discomfort, which I tried to attribute to my rigidity, not to the operation of the narcotic. I closed my eyes, then opened them. It was then that I saw the Aleph. I come now to the ineffable centre of my tale. It is here that a writer's hopelessness begins. Every language is an alphabet of symbols, the employment of which assumes a past shared by its interlocutors. How can one transmit to others the infinite Aleph, which my timorous memory can scarcely contain? In that unbounded moment, I saw millions of delightful and horrible acts. None amazed me so much as the fact that all occupied the same point, without superimposition and without transparency. What my eyes saw was simultaneous. What I shall write is successive, because language is successive. Something of it, though, I will attempt to capture. Under the step towards the light, I saw a small, iridescent sphere of almost unbearable brightness. At first I thought it was spinning, and then I realized that the movement was an illusion produced by the dizzying spectacle inside it. The Aleph was probably 2 or 3 centimeters in diameter, but universal space was somehow contained inside it. With no diminution of size, each thing, the glass surface of a mirror, let us say, was infinite things, because I could clearly see it from every point in the cosmos. I saw the populous sea, saw dawn and dusk, saw the multitudes of the Americas, saw a silvery spider web at the center of a black pyramid, saw a broken labyrinth, it was London, saw endless eyes, all very close, studying themselves in me as though in a mirror, saw all the mirrors on the planet, and none of them reflecting me. Saw in a rear courtyard on Calais Solaire the same tiles I'd seen 20 years before in the entryway of a house in Fray Bentos. Saw clusters of grapes, snow, tobacco, veins of metal, water vapor. Saw convex equatorial deserts and their every grain of sand. Saw a woman in Inverness whom I shall never forget. Saw her violent hair, her haughty body. Saw a cancer in her breast. Saw a circle of dry soil within a sidewalk where there had once been a tree. Saw a country house in the Adrogue. Saw a copy of the first English translation of Pliny. Saw every letter of every page at once. As a boy, I would be astounded that the letters in a closed book didn't get all scrambled up together overnight. I saw simultaneously, night and day, a sunset in Querero that seemed to reflect the colour of a rose in Bengal. Saw my bedroom with no one in it. Saw a study in Alkmaar, a globe of the terra aqueous world between 2 mirrors that multiplied it endlessly. Saw horses with wind-whipped manes on a beach in the Caspian Sea at dawn. Saw the delicate bones of a hand, the survivors of a battle sending postcards, a tarot card in a shop window in Mizpah. Saw their oblique shadows of ferns on the floor of a greenhouse. Saw tigers, pistons, bisons, tides and armies. Saw all the ants on earth. Saw a Persian astrolabe. Saw a desk drawer, and the handwriting made me tremble. Obscene, incredible, detailed letters that Beatrice had sent to Carlos Argentino. Saw a beloved monument in Chiquita. Saw the horrendous remains of what had once deliciously been Beatrice Viterbo. Saw the circulation of my dark blood and the coils and springs of love and the alterations of death. I saw the Aleph from everywhere at once. The earth in the Aleph, and the Aleph once more in the earth, and the earth in the Aleph. Saw my face, and my viscera saw your face. And I felt dizzy, and I wept, because my eyes had seen the secret, hypothetical object whose name had been usurped by men, but which no man had ever truly looked upon. The inconceivable universe. I had a sense of infinite veneration and infinite pity. Serves you right, having your mind boggled for sticking your nose in where you weren't wanted, said a jovial, bored voice. And you may rack your brains, but you'll never repay me for this revelation, not in 100 years. What a magnificent observatory, eh, Borges? Carlos Argentino's shoes occupied the highest step. In the sudden half-light, I managed to get to my feet. Magnificent, yes, quite magnificent, I stammered. The indifference in my voice surprised me. You did see it, Carlos Argentino insisted anxiously. See it clearly, in colour and everything. Instantly I conceived my revenge. In the most kindly sort of way, manifestly pitying, nervous, evasive. I thanked Carlos Argentino Daneri for the hospitality of his cellar, and urged him to take advantage of the demolition of his house to remove himself from the pernicious influences of the metropolis, which no one, believe me, no one, can be immune to. I refused, with gentle firmness, to discuss the Aleph. I clasped him by both shoulders as I took my leave, and told him again that the country, peace and quiet, you know, was the very best medicine one could take.
That's beautifully written, isn't it? The whole description.
Yeah.
I feel as though I've been around the world and back.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. Well, thank you for that, John Foxx.
My pleasure.
Great to see you again.
My pleasure, Janice.
Thank
Good to see you.